So hello everyone, and yeah, today I will be doing some redesigns. Stream is finally working like again. Today I wanted to start the new series where I will be redesigning the monsters and the city, hopefully, from Heroes of Might and Magic 1. I had to put the previous like Diablo challenge on hold for like some different reasons, and I need to mute myself again from the YouTube. And yeah, so this is pretty much all that you need to know. So this is basically the barbarian city, the plains city, or whatever. These are the creatures that live in this city, so I want to like redesign them. And in the end, after like doing all those guys, I want to redesign also the entire city, so to kind of bring it up in quality and to just like reorganize it and to make it just look a bit cooler, hopefully. So yeah, this is pretty much all, and I guess not much more in terms of what I can say about it. So the first thing I'm going to do is to actually save a file, HoMM1, so I won't lose it. And yeah, I kind of want to stay true to the original a bit more, so I don't want to really go extremely crazy with all the redesigns, so I don't want to like lose the original look of it. So yeah, removing it also removes the hair of this like fella, so I don't remember how he has something like this, let's say, but yeah, let's just stick with it. The first thing that I wanted to do is to reorganize those guys in terms of like scale, so kind of to decide who is like bigger, who is smaller, and whatever. This guy is a goblin, this is an orc. So yeah, the wolf, I kind of want him to actually be much bigger. This is like relatively strong creature. This is the ogre, I believe, so he can be like significantly bigger. Something like this will do. Let me just have him on the separate layer, so the scale will be a bit better visible. So we could say that, for example, the wolf is more like a pet for this guy. So the scale wise, I want something like this. Troll actually drops some rocks, so he is like a throwing type of a monster. So I kind of think he should be smaller than the ogre. It kind of like feels this way than me, because this guy is definitely more tanky than this one, but this one can throw rocks, so yeah. And the Cyclops, because this is like the top tier unit, I do believe should be the biggest one, so he easily could be something like this. So also in this stream I will take a little bit of a different approach. I don't want to like make one stream to design one monster and whatever. I kind of plan to do them all on the same time. So yeah, I feel something like this actually makes sense. So they are just scale wise looking like this, so we can see how they will behave, how, for example, the goblin is in a scale compared to the Cyclops. So yeah, I feel this is relatively an okay-ish start. So let me also move those guys well to the side, so we can start drawing without any problems whatsoever. And the cool thing about the Heroes of Might and Magic 1 is there are like 28 monsters in total in the entire game, so it won't be a problem to like redesign them all, because it's like only 28. And also with the approach of doing all in the same time, the thing should be even easier. So yeah, if anyone has any questions or whatever, feel free to ask them. I will try to respond to all the questions that you might have. So yeah, the plan actually is to start relatively simply and just to explore a bit the proportions and everything, so we can like see how the entire thing could look like together. Also for the entire city, because this is like a barbarian type of a city, so it's basically like strong guys that are not like really intelligent in this case. I kind of want to portray this in those concepts, in those designs. So I kind of want them to be a bit more on this like feral side, more on the tribal type of a side. So we can clearly see that they are a little bit more primitive. And again, I want to stay relatively true to the original concept. So for example, if this fella is like having a big nose relatively and some sort of a necklace and then like stone spear or whatever, I kind of want to make them have exactly the same items. But of course, I can like add stuff and kind of push it however I feel would be best for those guys. So today, most likely, I would be doing mostly like a lot of like sketches and stuff. Nothing too crazy, especially since those units are relatively like typical. If you like talk creature-wise, because this was like one of the first games that had those type of creatures. It's like really old. I don't even know what year it was released, but I know it's old. So it was not having any like really crazy monsters. Like the craziest monster that you can find in this game is like a ghost or like a pink dragon that is kind of funny in the same hue as a troll is. So yeah, game is definitely an old one, but again, the same as with the previous game that I was like redesigning for fun. This only adds the interest to it, like the interesting part to it, because if something is old, it can really easily be upgraded in terms of visuals. So yeah, I kind of want to also go with a bit more with like a stylized type of a designs maybe. Most likely I will fail with it because I'm not really good at stylized things, but I can try to kind of push, for example, the anatomy a bit more, to push the facial features a bit more. So yeah, true. The originals are really, really cool. I also always like them. So even a friend of mine told me that I shouldn't go too dark with everything that I redesign. Most likely I will still end up doing everything a bit darker than it is in Heroes of Might and Magic. So yeah, but I will try to do my best to not do anything too dark. Definitely I want to maintain the original colors, but I will also tone them, tone, I believe is the word. So there will be a bit more realistic. So for example, a green skin and a orange skin won't look like really odd if they were be like next to each other. So yeah, it won't be like exactly the same hue. I might try doing something like this, and actually later I will try to find an artist that is really good at stuff like this. But yeah, at first some concepts. But yeah, the main goal is to also have fun and to learn something new. So I will be experimenting a bit more with everything that I do in here. So if there will be like process that I want to like try, for example, like I'm concepting those guys, then making a 3D mockup, making some renders to have like the information about color and light and how everything will behave on the forms, like are most likely will happen, because again I want to learn stuff instead of like redoing the same stuff over and over again. So yeah, for the orc, so most likely I will just do like one sketch, the second sketch, then I will like see what I like, what I don't like from those sketches, and then I will like try to make more variations to them. It's also a bit hard to not make everything a bit more stylized, since the characters are like having those kind of funny proportions. So for example, the orc has like relatively thin arms for his size, and he has relatively large ass, and like he's kind of like on the fat side. He kind of has like this pear type of a body shape, which is like cool. It's not a shape that necessarily I would see every time. The only thing that I need to look at is how to hold the crossbow. Holding a crossbow to get like a more interesting pose, because I'm not entirely sure how it can be, how you can hold it, or what the pose do I want. Okay, I actually got a really nice reference. So yeah, and this pose also looks relatively interesting because it shows the character doing something, what is also cool, what is always cool. So they won't be as static as usual those type of concepts are. And also what is really cool is the fact that since this game is relatively old, it's not like over the top. So for example, if you have like this ogre, he has like a stick in his hand, like a huge mace, and that's pretty much all. It's not like a mace with like 10 skulls on it. It's really simple type of a concept, so it kind of does allow me to be a little bit more how to say it, to experiment a bit more with it. But also if I decide that I want something to be a little bit more like realistic in a sense, so for example the crossbow will be like a normal working medieval crossbow, then also everything will be more or less fine with it. So yeah. Also he has this like huge ass forehead with relatively flat head shape, with this kind of like monkey-like facial features. Yeah, but this pose don't really work with showcasing the face, so I don't think I will like keep it. Maybe I will try something a bit different, so he can like hold the crossbow to his like side vertically. Maybe it will also allow me to showcase the design of a crossbow a bit nicer. And yeah, also in the first time, while doing the first like quick sketches and everything, remember that you don't really need to like care about the quality of lines whatsoever. So for example, in this case, I won't really, like, since I am just sketching, I'm just searching for some different like solutions, I won't really care about making those lines and everything beautiful. I kind of want to explore a bit more. So worrying about the line quality and everything at this point will be limiting. So instead of like designing and experimenting, I will just focus on things that don't really matter at this moment. So yeah, this is also the reason why the scribbles are relatively like ugly right now, but later most likely they should look a bit nicer. I kind of like the fact that he could have like more thick forearms. So the thicker forearms, like relatively thin biceps and triceps, and a bit more huge shoulders. This looks kind of interesting. And also he has this like type of an armor. I don't even know if you can hold bolts on your back. I know the arrows on the back are kind of wonky. In a sense, they are not many archers were wearing them like this, like back in the days. I have no idea how it works with the bolts for the crossbow. It's a bit of a different story, I believe. So yeah, I really like that he has those huge ears. So it would work for something that is wearing a crossbow, that is holding a crossbow, and that is kind of like a scout type of a character, because I can imagine he can be a scout. Like from this entire team, he looks the most mobile and at least somewhat intelligent. So I guess I will kill the entire intelligence he has with the facial features, because I kinda want him to be looking like a mix of a pig and an ape, something like this. So I don't want him to be like really intelligent. Like, I don't want any of these creatures to be like really intelligent, but this guy in particular. So yeah. And later, of course, I can like always experiment with all the designs and everything. So yeah. How do you actually hold crossbow? On the guy from the reference. Oh, there is like the most casual, like typical pose that I can imagine. How I was not thinking about it. Also, as I said, if anyone has any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask them. I will try to answer the best to my knowledge. So the pose I was talking about is this one, which looks cool. So yeah, and again, as always, if you are drawing anything, I feel it's for your best interest to like use references, because it just makes the life that much easier. So you can actually focus more on a different things, different aspects of the design, and you don't really need to like overthink some basic stuff, because in this case there's like no need to like redesign a wheel from scratch. If there is like a pose that looks like it's working nicely, a bit more back, then it should be like completely fine. It's kind of funny how it's like trousers looks like. I have no idea why this green thing is on his side. It looks kind of like a modern type of a joggers. But also I can see that he has a knife in his shoe, which is also a cool lead to design something, because he clearly is armed. And actually those like really like big type of trousers, they also look kind of interesting. I can imagine him wearing something like this, because the design of the city, the planes, it kind of was in the next series, in like Heroes of Might and Magic, I don't know, 3 or 2, it and 4 and like 5 and whatever, it was kind of treated more like a type of a desert type of a city. So in like high temperatures, I do think wearing like this baggy type of a trousers, this was the word that I was missing previously, is a good idea. So yeah, maybe it makes a bit more sense than I thought. Also, one of the ideas that I had that kind of got scraped was to also randomize the environment, like the new environment for those guys. For example, how this city could look like while it's on swamps, or how it could look like if it would be on, like, I don't know, some glacier, I don't know, in some cold type of a place. So it will give me additional like pointers to make the designs a bit more interesting. But a friend of mine told me that it's kind of lame, and it will kind of dilute or dissolve, I guess the same thing. It will dilute the original design, so there won't be as like prominent, and it will kind of lose the original spirit. So I decided that he was right, and I kind of felt that it's better to like stick a bit more to the original. Here there will be like a hand and a bit thicker forearm, because as I said, I kind of want him to have a bit thicker forearms. And some like triceps or whatever. And with the faces, I guess they will change like many times, because again, this is like only a first draft. Most likely I will experiment with those much more, because I do want them to be at least somewhat interesting. But yeah. Adding like earrings or whatever, I feel is kind of like natural. In every single like game that I know, orcs were always wearing like earrings or nose rings or whatever. So yeah, nothing too crazy about it. With the baggy trousers, and for the knife, so maybe some like cloth wrapped around his like arms and forearms, just to make it a bit more believable. Maybe some belts like wrapped around him. So I do think he has some belts on his clothes, so he also can have like some bags maybe or whatever. And if he is pressing with like the left hand, so he will be reaching with this arm, so it should be easier to reach behind the back. So yeah, I guess giving him the bolts in here will make the most sense. Some like belt going through the middle of his chest. And again, since I think the bolts are much shorter, it should not be a problem to like pull them out of this thing. I don't remember how it was called. But honestly, I don't even know if the bolts are shorter than arrows. I think they are, but I might be mistaken. But I think they are smaller. Okay. The second dude is done as a sketch. So now for the wolf. Wolf will be relatively big, so I believe, but it's also not an extremely complex creature, I would say. There are some parts in the wolf that can be like really like designed to show a different way of it, to like stylize it really a lot, but I don't think in here I will go more than like drawing just a big ass wolf. I really rarely draw any animals per se, so it will be a bit tricky for me. Maybe I will make him look a bit more like feral. So again, wolf. I will use some references for the wolves, because honestly I have not a single clue how a wolf looks like. Some different positions. Wolf, angry. I kind of want to... this pose is okay. Maybe the frontal view is not that nice. So yeah, this wolf will actually be kind of huge. So let's say something like this. I like the fact that it can has like a one arm in front of the other. So he will be full of fur. I mean, I still will be able to add a bit more of a character to it by like changing the face, for example. So maybe it will be a bit like he will have, I don't know, a shorter type of a face, so he will look a bit more feral. I don't really like him like looking to the side. Well, let me just grab the rest of the body. So maybe to make it look a bit, to make it be a bit cooler, he should have like a shorter legs from the back. That will kind of make his ass go a bit lower. Maybe this will be like a trait of this wolf. Big ass belly, like a really fluffy tail. Yeah, those type of designs usually are the easiest and the hardest ones on the same time, because you have like a really typical type of a creature, of like a wolf. It's like basically the same story as with the skeletons. Like it's really hard to design a cool looking skeleton. It's a lot about the stylization of it, like what are you willing to do with it. But to make it a bit more cool, let's take this like to a bit more to the back. I feel maybe like making the face like more like bald, maybe this way it will look a bit more interesting. Because this is like a huge ass wolf that is basically like breed for killing, so it can be a bit more on the aggressive side. And the one in the original also has this like wrap around his leg. It's like the occurring theme, kinda like green skin, green strip, green whatever, green jewel on a boot, green pants, green belt. I think this is like their way to connect the designs together visually by making all the like small things green. So yeah, maybe I will make it. Maybe I will also give it like something green in here. It kind of looks like just a coloring for the unit to be like easy to see what unit belongs to what player. Most likely it is. I don't remember if you can orient the creature to a different direction. So for example, if the enemy has a wolf and you have a wolf, and if they fight, if they like will like, change the directions they are looking at. I have not a single clue, but I guess this might be useful only for this type of a thing, like distinguish the players easier. Whoops. So something like this could work. And also in this case, maybe the tail shouldn't be like really fluffy. Maybe he should have like kind of like a rat type of a tail. Maybe fluffy. Yeah, I don't know at the moment. Later I will see, and I think that was quick. It froze relatively quickly. Let me reopen the file. Oh yeah, I think this guy can be a bit bigger. Okay, let me make the canvas a bit bigger. I also, for this like type of a thing, I don't want to like spend 100 hours on each character. Kind of want it to be a little bit more like, let's say, maybe faster thing. So I won't necessarily like design every single element of it. So I won't like do 10 versions per phase or whatever. I'll most likely just go with the flow. So for example, what I get is what I get in here is what I will go with, more or less. Of course, there will be some changes while working on it, but yeah, not that many. And okay, for the ogre. So basically this guy is like much taller, so the shoulders will be somewhere around in here. He has like this huge ass club. So I do believe like orienting him a bit more, for example, to the right. And just for example, this would be like a rib cage. Whoops. So this will be like a rib cage. A huge muscled arm. I kind of want this guy to be to like not hold this mace. I don't know, this log basically with like his two arms. Kind of want him to like hold it with one arm on his shoulder. I always thought this like pose is a bit cooler to showcase the like huge ass weapon, because well, this weapon is not necessarily extremely interesting. So, and again, as I said, I don't want to like overdo it. So he will be like holding it with one hand. And again, for the anatomy in here, I want to go with something that is a bit less, like, let's say, pleasant looking to the eye. So all the muscles will be a little bit over the top. So for example, the forearms will be a little bit more like bulbous. There will be like this huge ass things. Because this is not like an extremely graceful creature, I can imagine. And this is like more like a deal the biggest amount of like damage in the shortest amount of time type of a creature. And since he is like a giant, he can have like a relatively smaller head. But what I really like is the fact that he has like tons of hair. So I want him to be like extremely hairy. So the beard will be like really long. I am not necessarily sure about the... He also has fangs. It kind of looks like fangs. So I might give him some fangs. And this huge ass nose. Maybe huge for him, because like basically a small nose like on this guy is basically almost the size of the half of the head of the small guy. So yeah, maybe I will go with something like this. I kind of like the idea of him being bald. I might try it later, because I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to be, like what type of a haircut it is. Well, also this guy can definitely have like the uneven face, so can be a bit skewed or distorted. And he definitely should have more like primitive type of facial features. So like wider mouth, more pronounced like the forehead, this cranial bone, I believe. And some face. So yeah, so I guess something like this will do. Like this huge stomach. And he does have relatively like powerful legs. So for the legs, I guess I will go more with something that will resemble the let me search for it. Something that, for example, was in Harry Potter, I believe. This is this is basically like the same creature as far as I can see. So this is basically like this guy, just a different color and a bit of a different clothing. But I like I like the pose a bit more. That is a bit more open, and I like those like thick legs. Mine will obviously have the shoes on himself, but the huge ass legs really work nicely. Like thinner thighs, and these are like relatively easy to understand, but there's also a disease that kind of causes those legs to look like this. It had something to do with like elephants in terms of a name, but I'm not really sure how it was called. But yeah, this guy will have like this type of a like old, basically boots, like wrapped around his legs. Maybe he can have like a visible toe, one or two, to just show. This is just a really like shoes that are made just to be done. Also, pardon me for like being less talkative or like kind of mumbling without any sense while I'm drawing, because usually when I'm trying to design something, I'm trying to think a bit more about it, and it's a bit harder to like think and talk at the same time. Usually while refining the drawings or whatever, then I can like just pretty much shut down my brain and I can just do the drawing, because like refining the details don't really require any like brain power whatsoever, but like actually coming up with something is a bit more taxing on a brain. So yeah, this guy I feel can be a bit bigger. So for example, I can imagine this guy like walking on a leash with those guys, but I don't think he's also a type of a creature that would use any type of a leash, so there won't be any leash attached to one or the other. So yeah, they kind of like the stupid looking type of a hair on top of his head. It definitely will make him much dumber in the looks. What is really cool, can imagine the cloth to be made out of like different parts, so it's a bit more on a ready-made type of a side. He found something and just cobbled it together. For a belt, maybe like a rope. It will be hard to like find a leather belt long enough to like wrap around this guy so he can have like a belt. And yeah, for a mace, it's basically just a huge ass log. It can be like a tree stump or whatever. Or feel like a tree stump is the best type of a weapon he could have. Maybe he should be a bit thicker. So let's say I would paste him. An easy way to make something thicker is to just like whoops, just make it wider. And in 99% of the cases it will work, especially if you are doing any type of a creature that is more or the organic side. Yeah. Also, this type of a creature shouldn't be really shredded to the bone, since the skin most likely is much harder than in the humans, and most likely there is a lot of fat tissue I don't see this type of a guy to like work out and like really eat well. So yeah, I can imagine him being a bit more on this fat side type of a body build. Kind of more like a strongman. I mean, they do it well, but their body type like don't really look like, let's say, athletic in a sense, because they have like a lot of fat. Basically, the more fat you have, the easier it will be to pick up something heavy for you. Also, you need muscles, but yeah, a lot of strongmen are like having a lot of fat tissue on them, and also they have like these huge bellies, because as they say, the power is in the core. So yeah. And do I want to, yeah, I want to include those type of a gem. Maybe this type of a guy is, I don't know, he likes jewels, so maybe he would have some like jewels and some rings. Can be ugly and strong and just pretty much dumb, but maybe he enjoys the jewelry. This is a nice, small, nice take on him. Also, if a creature is stupid, usually I will limit the amount of fingers it has. So for this guy, I think going with 4 fingers is completely fine. Because I do believe it is kind of like a visual information on a creature that it has like a bit of a limited type of brain. So it won't be able to like properly use 5 fingers. So it has less fingers because it's just stupid. So yeah. He should have those like small, dumb looking eyes. And this huge ass, like eyebrow type of a thing. I do believe that in the end I will make like a Dark Souls type of a creature out of every single one of those guys. This is like usually naturally what I'm drawn into. But yeah, we'll see. This flat head and this stupid haircut. Okay, so the giant is in here. The ogre. Let me make the canvas bigger and taller because the troll will be a bit smaller, but definitely will be, the Cyclops will be a bit on the huge side. And this castle, I do feel this guy should be a bit bigger, just for the orc like look a bit better with it. I kind of feel like also placing this feet to the left. No, this is fine. Be a bit bigger. Okay, because this way the troll is actually a bit smaller. I mean, the troll could be also like big, but I feel I want the troll to be a little bit more hunched down from the picking of all the like stones and everything. So he's like permanently hunching down. So maybe if he would like straighten his like back, then he will be like the same size as this ogre is. But he is just like picking much more stones. So I can imagine him having like a really powerful like shoulders for pressing, like for picking up everything. He's hunched because he's picking things from the ground. And he will be looking left in this concept. This huge nose. Like dreadlocks and everything. And also again, because he's like holding all these stones and everything, the forearms should be much bigger. Let me see. Patrol Olympics, how it was called. Yeah, and also the other thing, if I want this troll to like throw rocks, do I want him to just like pick them and just throw them, or do I want him to have some sort of a like weapon? So for example, it could be like a rock entangled with like a rope, or it could be just like him having a huge ass rock underneath his like armpit. So I guess I will go with this idea. So he will be just holding a huge ass stone constantly. So in here it's actually a cool like type of an idea. So for example, because he definitely must have like a dominant hand that he like holds the stone with like all the time, I can imagine this hand being much thicker and the second one to be much thinner. So he will actually like look kind of like non-symmetrical, and it will be kind of like justified for him to do so. So for example, in here I can imagine if this is like a creature that is just purely made to throw stones. In here, 3 fingers make a lot of sense, because why waste like muscles on like 4 weaker fingers if you can have like 2 bigger muscles for like only like 3 fingers. I mean like 3 muscles because the thumb also, but he could like grab it. Also, let me just make the canvas go like this. So he could have like this funny type of a build. So pectoralis will be much bigger. The abdominals. In this case, I can imagine him being a little like on the ripped side, because this guy is definitely like moving much more than this guy. He's like throwing, picking up rocks and everything. It's a bit more athletic type of a hobby, I would say. I kind of like this weird ass face, like really strong jaw. I guess I will try to like keep it somehow. And even like a bigger nose kind of makes a lot of sense. You can like smell the ground to, I don't know, to distinguish the smell of it, to search for rocks or whatever. I kind of like the idea of him having like this like really strong type of a face, like basically no neck. This guy also of course has a neck, like a really weird build. Blue nails. I have no idea why he has like a blue nails, but yeah, maybe they are made out of something, I don't know, magical, so he can like dig in the ground. And also because like he is holding a lot of weight in like one arm, this arm can be a bit longer, muscular, and also the leg should be a bit like stronger. Can imagine the calf. I guess longer feet will also help with stabilization. So it might make actually a lot of sense to give him a bit more like kind of stronger feet. Knee. And the trousers. So this guy will have some trousers. I don't think I will keep the color of the trousers. I have no idea with what they would need to make those trousers for them to be like green. I feel I will give him like something that is like made out of different patches of material. But a green material seems to be a bit of a stretch for a guy like this. Yeah. Leg. Also kinda want him to have this like material like on the crotch areas. I feel it will look nice. And also because this guy is like real like holding all the stones, I can imagine also his core to be like really strong. So like he will be much blockier in a build than the typical like let's say users of a core are. Some like tits, pectoral muscles. Yeah, and for the hair, like a long dreadlocks. This actually looks interesting, I would say. Like blue dreadlocks. It will look weird, but definitely interesting. Later I will need to like read a bit more what, for example, can cause the hair to go blue. Because there's some sort of a food or like minerals or whatever to like recolorize the hair. Or maybe he will be using something special. Maybe there is like a chemical that makes the hair look blue. Or that can be used to make the hair be blue. It's like bolder shoulder. I guess even thicker arm. So definitely like one arm dominant type of a guy. Yep. Should you be a bit smaller? Yeah. So compared to this guys, yeah, it's a bit smaller. The feet of this guy will be a bit shorter. A wolf should go slightly higher. Whoops. Ogre. Also now I make them like to stand like one by one. Later when I will try to like make the entire like perspective type of a painting out of them, I will prepare, I believe, a 3D file where I will like block out every like main, like basically where I will block out the perspective and the scale. So I will have like a proper perspective on all of these guys because I don't want them to like be flat images behind flat images. Kind of want them to be a bit nicer in the perspective. And for a Cyclops, because, well, no, don't delete. The Cyclops will be like this tall. I will have like this place for him in here. So definitely like a bulky type of a guy. He was always like walking kind of like a creep, so I kind of want him to have this like creepy pose. He kind of always look like he's creeping. Those like claw type of an arms. And he actually could shoot with like lasers from his eyes. I do believe this was like the only unit, like high tier unit that can shoot. If I remember correctly. I will have to like revisit this information. Again, those creepy hands. He also can be a bit of disfigured. He can be a little bit like skewed here and there because he is like so huge and so big. So I can also imagine him being a little bit more like hunched back, hunched to the front. Not sure. Him to look at the front. I feel it's really like cute that he has like this angry eyebrow type of a thing to happen. I always thought if there will be like a vertical eye, it also should have like a vertical, like not how it's called, the vertical, this flap of a skin. So it will basically, like if you have an eye, it should look like this. It kind of looks like something like that is for adults mostly. I won't say what, but yeah, I guess like the eyes closing like also horizontally would work. This guy definitely has like a horizontal type of an eye, so with like this huge skin flop. And again, I do believe in here I can play a bit more with like a head shape. He has really interesting head shape, like this like bulbous type of a thing. Kinda looks like a really like round type of skull. The face can be like really awkward because it can be like really long. It's like the eye is so huge. And I kinda want to make him look a bit more like stupid. Again, because this is like a huge creature that just shoot lasers from like its face. So definitely a lot can be done with the face structure. So he kinda can look surprised all the time. Like imagine being a Cyclops and like not being aware of the fact that you can shoot lasers from your face, just shooting a laser here and there from time to time, and like not knowing why all of a sudden something is burning in front of you. It would be kind of funny. The Cyclops faces always looked for me like they are made out of like two separate pieces. And he also looked like he is having a metal type of an armor, which is a bit odd for this castle. I don't feel like he should have a really metallic type of an armor, so I guess I will give him like a leather type of an armor that is reinforced with like metal. So yeah. And he's having a pair of thongs, so I'm glad I'm not drawing him from the like back view, because this guy is wearing thongs basically. So let me turn off the wolf. Where's the wolf? So it won't obscure the view for me at the moment. But this is also like a really classical fantasy, like old times fantasy. Monster wearing thongs. It's like a really old looking type of a thing. So yeah. And for the legs I want them to be a bit skinnier. I feel it will look nice. In this case the feet can be like really big. For the leg armor I can imagine like someone who is like in charge of those guys, like actually reinforce their legs, because they might be like really stupid, those monsters, and they can, I don't know, like kick something by accident. Hello to Tano, thanks. So he can like kick something by accident and just like scream in pain and just burn everything down. So I can imagine why someone would like to protect his legs. But also, again, I don't think this will be like an extremely sophisticated type of an armor. So I would mostly believe it will be some sort of like piece of metal and a piece of metal and everything just tight like to his legs. So it like will hold. So he's protected. And also a stupid way to lose like a huge unit is by like it basically makes its legs really fragile. So I can imagine why, for example, they would like to reinforce his legs. So yeah, I want to make it awkward in the pose and in everything. This is like the dumbest of the creatures. I do feel he looks awkward as hell. It's definitely less dangerous in a sense of all the things he used to be, but well, tough luck. And maybe he's actually wearing like a coat made out of like a chainmail. This would actually make a lot of sense. So for example, he has like a normal cloth underneath him, but they gave him like a huge ass chainmail. And this actually will be a nightmare to like draw or paint. Like painting a chainmail is a total nightmare. It can be done nicely, but boy, it is hard. So I kind of feel like this chainmail type of a thing is a good idea. Yep. And for anything additional, I feel this guy should be bigger and thicker. Yep. And he does not have anything like I thought he had some like bracelets or something, but I noticed the troll has some bracelets. So on those arms, I can imagine a bit more of like a cloth around his arms. I guess on both arms, the cloth would make a lot of sense to make the picking stones a bit easier. So the hand, if he would hold the stone like this, and like this. Okay. Later I will take a proper reference pictures for everything. Yeah, so I guess those look kinda okayish. So now to give it a bit more of a taste, I can imagine arms of this guy to be much longer. So he will have like this weird type of a proportion. I usually enjoy monsters with like a really weird proportions. So like much longer forearms, much longer arms. I don't know. No, he looks kinda like he's going to the party. In this case, like a shorter arms are making a really nice, like they ban like this, they give him this like awkward looking type of a thing. Finger. Yeah, in a sense. Yeah, in this case the problem is that I never really liked this type of like silly fantasy in a sense. This is why I was not really enjoying a lot of designs for D&D, because it's like this fantasy type of a thing. So for example, like the wizards in like huge hats, like this typical like image of a wizard, they always looked a bit odd to me. I was never like a huge fan of it, but in this case it will be really hard to do something like cool without like making some silly decisions. So yeah. Also, what is what I found kind of interesting is in Heroes of Might and Magic 1, there are no skeletons. What is really like rare in any type of a fantasy type of a thing. So like I will try to give them more like typical fantasy features. Like let's say fantasy, but also on the other hand, I kind of will try to make them a bit more like a mature in a sense. It's really hard to say. I will see. Like most likely whatever like comes out of it, I will just roll with it. So yeah. So if you are like a huge ass Cyclops, yeah. The thing that we can also do is to look at the city where they are living. So and also to kinda maybe get slightly inspired of their surroundings. So like a Cyclops live like a huge ass pyramid, which is kinda okay. I get it. It's okay. The funny thing is, in here, Cyclops is smaller than an orc, which is really fun, like funny. And if we would like consider perspective and everything, then the goblin will be basically the size of this hut. But yeah, old games don't really have any perspective in it. Just all about readability. Those guys are basically living in a huts from Katal Huyuk, so like a typical brick type of a home. This makes the most sense for me in terms of like what creature lives where. It just looks natural. For goblins, the same story, it looks okay. They just like grabbed a bunch of sticks and they made a hut out of it. Troll living on a bridge, okay. I do understand. The trolls are guarding bridges in old games and in old fantasy. And the wolf in the caves also make a lot of sense. So yeah. And in here we have a tavern, I believe, Mage Guild, a city, and I have no idea what this building was, and a shipyard and a well. So yeah, maybe I will try to make a sketch for where is the wolf. I will try to make a sketch for the city maybe. With the city, definitely I will be using some 3D Blender type of a thingies, so I will be able to go a bit more like make something a bit more interesting with it, because like painting the entire landscape with the city and everything will be a bit hard to do. Okay, just connect those, and especially since where is the goblin? Which layer is a goblin? Okay, this one. So what layer is the orc? This one, okay. Yeah, so let me just connect all of those. Yeah, like all designs are really random. Just like consider them. As far as I know, back in the days there were no like designers for those type of things. It was just like, okay, the person who can just draw the most will be doing the drawings. Well, let me show you, for example, another city. Like, okay, the human city, like the farm, let's say, make much more sense. We'll also be redesigning this one. But the same story. It's like Stonehenge, some huts, a hut. Like, this is really cute. And the castle, like, it's just kind of funny. So yeah, and the city that makes the most sense actually is a human city. This looks okay-ish. You have like an armorer, a blacksmith, like a cathedral with like a paladin, an arena, evil castle, a peasant house, and like range for archers. It makes sense. It is okay. And they clearly had no idea how to make this city. And let me show you the evil castle, because it's also a bit cute, I would say. So yeah, you have like a black tower with like a dragon. Yeah, like black tower with like a dragon inside of it. Okay, I get it. It does make a bit of a sense. Hydra in a swamps. This actually is like, I believe, in Heroes 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. It makes sense. Minotaur in a labyrinth. It also makes sense, but like, well, who places a labyrinth in a place like this? Griffon nest also makes sense. Centaurs and gargoyles. Yeah, like, I don't know. Why do you need to fly if you like live on the ground level? I could like swap those two things on a different, like, with it, but yeah. I think this city is the easiest one to start with because the monsters are like really straightforward. Just like, we do damage, end of a story. So yeah, so let me keep those guys in here. So you should be like somewhere in here. And let me take a city. Let me take a duplicate of it. So like the first streams most likely will be a bit more about like planning everything instead of like doing the nice things. Later we will like proceed with doing the nice things. Even if I will try to like utilize any type of a 3D in a workflow, it still will be much over there. Yeah, that's true. But in here it will be like much like light years easier if I would just try to have a sketch, even to start with 3D. Like, one of the problems that I, for example, want to avoid, that is absolutely disgusting in my opinion, is doing something like, let me show you, like this. I do believe Heroes of Might and Magic 4 is the worst one, because like the city is like kind of stupid, I would say, in a sense. So like the roads, like the placement of objects, it looks kind of random. It looks like, okay, we can use 3D, so we will use 3D, and you end up with something like this. I always got the impression that every single building in here was relatively similar to each other, like in this bad way, so they kind of like blend together. But it's not as bad as I remembered it now while looking at it. Definitely the Necropolis from Heroes of Might and Magic 4 is the ugliest city ever. So let me just search for it. Necropolis. So this is definitely a thing that I want to avoid. But yeah, this is as bad as I remembered it. Yeah, different time periods, but if you look at it, this is like a clusterfuck of like different things. Like, if any city in the entire history of Heroes of Might and Magic does not make any sense whatsoever, and its design is this one, is the Necropolis. because like you have some sort of a worms in here, like everything is everywhere, like yeah. And what I want to avoid is something like this. This just looks extremely fucking ugly for me, and I think I will go more with like a sections instead of like a certain building. So for example, instead of like making one hut with like goblins, I will make like the entire place where there are a lot of huts, so you could see how everything is happening. But on the other hand, and hello Mikołaj, on the other hand, the problem that is that you can see with like the newer heroes, where they actually put much more effort into doing everything in 3D. I mean, they did the entire city in a 3D. Yes, I even have problems to like search for it. Okay, this can be a Heroes of Might and Magic 7 also. Well, let me just download, so I will show you what I mean. On two different examples. Just I need to find a good screenshot. Everything is low res. Okay, so let's say this one. This is also a thing that I want to really avoid. This one, even though this is much nicer. Heroes of Cost of... No, it's Heroes of Might and Magic. But yeah, I get it. So this is like the old pixel games. They are not really like nice with the game, with the name. So in Heroes of Might and Magic 7 you can see like the different buildings. It is a bit blending together, but at least you have like some hierarchy. So like the low tier buildings below, the high tier buildings on the top. It looks somewhat okay. You can like navigate in here if you know what is what. Of course it's not like as like straightforward as this one, but yeah, I don't want to go this way too. But the worst thing is what they did in here. It's Heroes of Might and Magic 5, where I had no clue what they wanted to achieve, but try to navigate in this city and to find anything. Like, it's just impossible to find any type of a building. Everything is exactly the same. It's just bland, and yeah, it just looks bad. So these are like the things that I do want to avoid while doing this type of a thing. So yeah. Yeah. Now I kind of wonder if I wrote the title of a stream correctly. So what I had in mind in this case was to also what I want to show, that this is like a strength. I think this is how you write it. Strength. I never remember strength, let's say. I want to show that they are kind of like stupid or primitive. They are like brutal, more like a tribe. What else could I write? Like steppes, desert, yeah, stuff like this. So usually like making those small type of notes does help while you are trying to like design something. Also in Hero 3D will be like really helpful to decide on what type of a camera to use and everything. So like the easiest way to like do all of those things would be to just make it kind of like flat using a long lens, so the perspective won't be like crazy dynamic, but there will be some perspective in it, but not much. But if I would go for any type of a reference, let me check, for example, for CP concept art. If I would go with anything in terms of like the, let's say, the scale, because we can say this game is more, can be a bit more epic. I kind of want to go a bit more with like a cityscape. So okay, I won't be searching for the images, but yeah. For example, in here, I would like to have some sort of a castle. And again, since this is like a primitive type of a city, I don't want everything to be like extremely, like, let's say, beautiful. So there can be like some orcish type of an architecture, some like wheeled ass towers and everything. And again, this is just like a note. It has nothing to do with a design now. I'm kind of like trying to plan the layout out. So yeah. Later I will also do like a proper research of the castles and everything, so we could like do shit like this together. So for example, like a road or whatever, so you can like see a road in here. And for a scale, I can imagine, for example, like a typical character to be like this. Well, like this. This will be like a human standing in here, or maybe even smaller. So the castle will be visibly huge, and we have like a lot of space to actually place some buildings and everything. So yeah. So for example, if we would start a city, this is also like the way you can approach it. We would basically have like a city. This is pretty much all without any upgrades whatsoever. So it will be like slightly in here, and it will be just like a city. Nothing too crazy is happening. Then we would build, let's say, a shipyard can be like in here on the left. It does not really matter that much. But yeah, then we can build some goblin huts. So they can be in a distance because there will be like a lot of them, so I don't really want to crowd the entire thing that much. And also, again, I want to be a bit more truthful to the original source. So building a goblin type of things will like populate the area with huts like in here. So we'll incorporate some sort of like goblin tribe into our city or whatever. In here I can imagine there will be like water, maybe. Even this guy should be even smaller, so the road can go like this, maybe. Human will be in here like this. And later, of course, the 3D will determine the scale of everything and how dense the thing will be. So yeah, so in here I can also have like some tropical trees, maybe. Yeah, something will be like just happening in here. There will be like clouds, shit and whatnot in here. So yeah. Let me add class, like basic thing. Because I want this environment to be a little bit more like rough and evil and everything, there will be no beautiful clouds, more like a clear blue sky with like a stuff just happening in here. Okay, so this is like the first building area we could have. Let me like just circle it around. So let's say we will have like some huts in here. And even though this is like not a beautiful drawing, again, this is just a note. So it's just a note for myself. So I can write goblins. So I will know what actually is where and why it's where I placed it. So okay, so in here we will have goblins. They could be a bit like wider because they can occupy the entire like space in here, and it will be fine. Then the second thing, I actually need to check up quickly what the building is. One buildings. What is the building? The darker one. Okay, bridge. Okay, this is a tavern. And this is a thief guild. And a well. Okay, a thief guild. It's okay. Now I'll add a shipyard. If there will be water. So, primitive shipyard, I can imagine, won't be like extremely beautiful. But it can be like in here, some like logs laying around on a beach. Construction of a ship can be happening like in here. Again, just a note, not a design currently. Maybe some sort of a dock, maybe some like smaller boats like floating around in here. And some like shipyard type of a buildings. Stuff like this. So a shipyard will look like this. The only unit I believe I will need to like reorganize to like move them somewhere else will be trolls, because with like a clean heart I can't imagine how to justify a troll like standing next to a bridge. It just does not make any sense for me. So I think I will give them like a different dwelling, but maybe. Okay, so this thing should be like here, a bit wider. Goblins can actually go almost to this, or maybe not to the side, maybe they can go like this. And maybe this way I can actually like build some sort of a structure over the water. So this will be some sort of a bridge, but with different shit happening around it, and then the trolls will just be like in here. How do like a natural bridge can look like. Like a stone type of a thing. Okay, no, I don't want it. So maybe the goblins should be, well, the goblins should be a bit shorter, like in here. But maybe in here we would have some sort of like a beach, or like not like a river, but kind of like a really shallow river type of a thing. And they will just like, I don't know, live in some like clay huts in here. So there will be like a clay stuff happening in here, so they will like live in those type of places around the water, and they will like take the stones, the rocks out of the water or whatever. I can imagine something like this to work a bit. So we have like a 3 dwellings at the moment. The goblins can go a bit more to the left. This can go a bit more like in here. Webs, okay. Let me call it trolls or whatever. Rock type of a thing. Trolls. Let me name this one Shipyard. Okay. In here actually I can imagine some like building to be placed. This could be actually a tavern. It won't be like the biggest one, the biggest building, but It is a tavern nonetheless. Some like other buildings around it. Of course, it should be like a primitive type of a building, so this building actually should be much bigger, because for example, if you want to like have an ogre to go to a tavern, we also need to have like a room for something like this, not only for humans. So this looks kind of like a building for the ogres, but it does make sense. Okay, I think it does. And a thief guild on the left. There is like no reason for. Actually, a thief guild near a shipyard makes a lot of sense. So in here there will be like some utility buildings. Yeah, and basically there will be like connected, so it can form like a small city in here. Like a small primitive city actually. I guess even the scale then of this guy will be like this big. It will actually be a human. This makes much more sense. Usually if you are designing something, always try to work with a scale, because if I would decide like the human is this big, then the entire structure does not make sense whatsoever. So it's always good to be aware more or less of the scale that you are going to utilize. Okay. So this is like a city, smaller part of a city. And now, if this is like thieves slash tavern. And again, this is like a beauty of design. Usually if you do like plan stuff first, it looks extremely ugly. So if you would ever seen any type of like a really cool design, vastly majority of the times it just starts like this. It's just ugly from the beginning. So yeah, it's good to be aware of those type of things. It's also much easier to design something if you just don't care about the quality of it, because if the layout will be okay more or less, I will like later like kind of reorganize it and everything, then there's a huge chance that the entire thing just would work. What the well is doing in this game, because I don't remember. Wells, buildings, okay, costs. Well, okay. Well just increases the unit production, so the well thing actually in here can be like replaced by making the city a bit bigger. So all the objects that we will add in here, like a smaller city around it and everything, it can make it can work as a well. So yeah, so this will look like this. Okay, definitely I need to reorganize some stuff. So the Mage Tower I want to be like next to a city. So in here there will be like a Mage Tower. I want it to be like primitive and made out of stone. So it can have like the spiky type of a top. Maybe like it will just basically look like a huge tower. So yeah, and the city was developed with it. In the newer, like for example, Heroes of Might and Magic 3, this type of a thing will be much shorter, because you can only have like 2 or 3 levels of Magic Tower. But yeah, because they are just like limited in terms of like having a magic thing in it. For the wolves, the giant wolves can Let me just make it on another layer. The wolves can be like somewhere in here. So let's say we will like add some mountains or whatever. Yeah, basically like around the city. Yeah, wolves. Wolves are here or are here. The wolves will be here. I kind of like it though. Okay, I want to do this. I will just make some like mountains in here because I enjoy the shape. Okay. Now for the wolves, I think like in here it does make sense to like include a small like cave in here with like many openings. So the wolves can like live in here. A bit on the edge, but it can also like make some like holes in the walls in here around the city. So like the walls of the city are actually protected by the wolves. It makes sense, maybe, kinda. So let me just wolves. Okay, for the ogres, since they are like pretty huge, I can imagine their huts to be like made out of like solid clay and giant logs and everything or whatever. So I can imagine they are actually like dwelling around the city. So if you want to go to the city, you actually need to go through a fuckload of ogres. So there will be like many buildings in here just around it. What actually makes the natural protection of a city much more sensible, because now if you want to like force your way to the top, you have to go through the ogres, and I can also add some more towers around it, so the ogres will be like this entire space in here. So it also will increase the look of a city. And of course, I could spend like 10 hours refining this sketch to make it look like beautiful and everything. But most likely I will do this in 3D because it's just like it makes more sense for me to make something like this in 3D. So yeah. And between those places, for example, in here, I do believe include some like crops or whatever does make some sense. So it won't be like entirely dead area, that type of a thing. Maybe some crops, some just small buildings, just like everyday type of a thing happening. Yeah, the giant city of the ogres will look kind of cool, I believe, in here. Let's like circle it. These are like the ogres. This actually is Mage Tower. This I will connect to just to the city. So this is like a city. And the last building is this weird temple for the Cyclopses. So for the Cyclopses, I do believe instead of like giving them a pyramid or whatever this shit is. I think having some sort of a ruins in here in the first plan, for example, maybe not even ruins, can be like that, some sort of an ancient civilization type of a thing. Maybe it even can have like a pyramid, or maybe it don't. I actually would imagine going like the opposite type of a thing of what they have done. So you have this like mysterious type of an area of like this entrance to the ground, into the ground. For example, the Cyclopses used to live underground. So. And on top of it, there is like a huge structure with some like pyramid type of a thing. Kinda want to avoid adding any pyramid type of a things in here, but well, the game kinda calls for it. So the ogres will kinda be like obstructed by it. The thing that I don't really like with the pyramid is that it's like the shape is just odd. It does not fit in here. So instead of like a pyramid, I do believe making it more like made out of blocks, like with these giant stones. I feel it will look a bit better with like the eye in it. So you could like, there will be like a building for it. Can be like higher maybe. That of course saying that we would like to. Oh, also I forgot about the orcs. So yeah. I think also something like this could be like placed in here. This will make the most sense for me. Because now we can have like a proper temple, so we have like something and then we can like boom. A huge ass temple with like giant cyclopses. And I guess this is the only thing that I will like rearrange. This will be like the huge ass eye. And we have like a tomb for the giants, because this place in here is just odd in my opinion. It does not work for me. So I do believe like giving them a, maybe even like a huge tower with like the eye sculpture. So like the Cyclopses are watching over the city. And then like you call for them and you get this like awkward type of a dumb creatures like come down from there and be like, wow, someone call for help. I feel this is like a way to go in here. It also works really nice with the panoramic of a city because it shows like that it's above everything and that the city is like the most important thing, even though this thing is definitely bigger, but the perspective and everything. So this will be the Cyclopses. Cyclopses. Okay. And the last dwelling is actually really simple. This will be like this wooden huts. It's wooden type of things with orcs. So it can be like kind of mixed with normal buildings, but those guys in here will be much more primitive. So it's kind of like goblins, but not really. Be like some stuff like this. And of course in here now the scale looks like this, but in the final, like let's say product, it can look vastly different. So maybe these are like this, but there will be like this. This actually makes a lot of sense. So again, also in here we can have some like palms and stuff like this, so there will be some greenery in a scene. That is always a nice thing to have, and also it will justify for the ogres to like have some places to gather the resources for their weapons. And also this is the reason why you need to build those guys too. Build those guys first. Some like sand dunes and everything, like maybe ruins, whatever. This would work without like wasting too much time on it. Okay. So, orcs. Yeah, so basically the entire city is planned out. I don't think there is anything else that I have missed. Is there a Graal? Holy Grail in the first thing? The first game? Artifacts? No. No. Map objects? No. Obelisk. There are obelisks, which kinda suggests that there is a Holy Grail. Holy Grail from 1. But the Grail. Heroes 3, 4, 5. Okay. There are none. Okay. So I guess the one thing that we could like make for the game, because this is like a really like, popular for Heroes of Mathematics, like Holy Grail in here could be like a sun, huge sun, shining over the city or whatever. So a magical sign, magical sun. Or, yeah, maybe we will place like a grail somewhere in here somehow, like a banner, big as flag. Yeah, so something like this. And do I want to? No, I don't want to press it, but we can make it bigger. Not that big. Smaller, but wider. Okay. So you can see how this can look like actually, presentation wise. Okay. Here are those dudes. My dudes come here. So this is what we will start, and then oh no, did I remove the top part of this? Of those guys' heads? No, okay. I do have them in here still. So these are basically the dwellings, the dwellers. Let me just like slide them to the side a bit more. Give them a bit more space. And also this is a beauty of sketching. In basically 2 hours I planned out everything, so now I know what to do. So for complete this challenge I just need to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters and the entire city. And yeah, this is how it looks like. Let me duplicate it. Later I will also think I will maybe work on the UI, so we can see how it could look like while brought back to the as a modern game or whatever. So yeah, I guess I will finish the stream in here. So on the next stream most likely I will start like by blocking out the 3D shapes for those guys, or maybe I will like clean up the concepts, so I will know better what to do in 3D, and I will maybe try to like sculpt them or whatever. This also will be relatively interesting for me to make the perspective work a bit better. And also for the things that I definitely want to make, this is something I forgot to mention, is to make a one window with a background for all the characters to be displayed in. So in here there will be like something characteristic happening to the city, so like some mountains and shit like this will happen in here. So we can like present every single like unit on the same plate, on the same template, so we can like properly like view them and see them as an image. So I do believe this will be a cool thing to do, and maybe even include like a building from where they are from, but yeah, most likely no. Some clouds, so just a presentation board for each character. And of course the Cyclops will be like the biggest one, and a Goblin will look like this, so the illustration will be like most likely cropped down. So yeah, I guess this will be everything for today, and thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it, and see you next time, maybe on Wednesday, I will see. So yeah, see ya and have a good one.